optimal subsolutions. In other words, to put it formally, the optimal solution of an instance is a function of optimal solutions of sub-instances. Once the principle of optimality is satisfied, the very principle of optimality leads naturally to a recursive formulation. After all, the optimal solution is depending on sub-solution. Get that recursion, and once you have that recursion, what do? How do you implement it? Study the dependency relation, identify the subproblem space, and finally identify the order in which they are to be solved and arrive at the code. And all I am going to do in next 10 minutes is a case study, which is a powerful case study. It is called matrix chain product, and this is used extensively in engineering computation, signal processing and speech recognition related applications, where every matrix is a linear transformation. So if you are subjecting a vector through a number of linear transformation, the cumulative effect is given by the product of all these matrices. So first you take a vector v and pre-multiply by m1 and again pre-multiply by m2 and then multiply by m3 and m4 and so on. What we can do is we can have this chain multiplied once for all, because we know that a particular data vector has to go through certain series of transformation. Every time, instead of repeatedly doing this, I will have this computed, and whenever this sequence of transformation is to be done, all I do is I take the vector and then pre-multiply by m, and that will have the same effect. Therefore, this is one of the very important problems studied in engineering, computational engineering. Given a chain of matrices, how do I get the product evaluated? The earlier solutions were all terribly messy until an Indian came forward with an out of the world and brilliant solution based on dynamic programming. He hit the nail on the top, and then that has taken a massive jump from terribly inefficient to practically implementable solution. Okay? The person is Godbole. Okay? So Prasad Godbole is the person who made the landmark result of giving a nice algorithm for this. What was the scenario before? The scenario before was as follows. They were doing exhaustively how to get this product done, and when they were doing it, it was leading to some terrific inefficiency. So first I will point out that inefficiency, and then in order to make the example simple and short, I will take 3 matrices. When there are 2 matrices, there is only one way to multiply. If there are 3 matrices, you can multiply in 2 different ways, right? If you have ABC, you can multiply it as first B with C and then with A, or you can multiply AB and then with C. Both of them will give the same final answer. Okay? This is called associativity. Because of the associativity, if you want to multiply ABC, you can do this and then this, or you can do this and then. But the point is, they may have a dramatically different effort depending on the way in which you multiply. Assuming that if you want to multiply a P by Q matrix with a Q by R matrix requires the common sense operation of PQR multiplication, right? It's very simple to see. In order to evaluate one item, Q items are to be multiplied. You have to evaluate PR values, so it is PQR. Very simple to see. Okay? Consider the following dimensions. Suppose A equal to 10 by 100, and B is this is A, and B is 100 by 1, and C is again 1 by let us say 75. Suppose you multiply like this, B cross C. How many multiplications are needed for B cross C? The B cross C requires 100 into 1 into 75, 7500 multiplication, and this results in a 100 into 75 matrix. With this you have to multiply 10 by 100 matrix. So ABC requires another 10 into 100, 1000, so 75,000, so together 82,500 multiplications are needed for this. But if you multiply AB into C, in order to get AB, you require 10 into 100 into 1, that is 1000 multiplication. This results in a 10 by 1 matrix, and 10 by 1 matrix is to be multiplied with 1 by 75 matrix, which is another 750 multiplication. 1750 multiplications are good enough to get the same value. There are only two ways to obtain the result. You can see one of them is taking 82,500 multiplication, and another to get the same answer. Only 1750 multiplications are enough. Okay? Obviously, you would, given these three matrices, you would like to go this way rather than this way to get the product. In general, when a chain is given, what way I can organize the multiplication so that I get the final answer with least number of multiplication, minimum number of multiplication. Okay? So this is called the matrix chain product problem. Now, when there are three matrices, I could see that there are two ways to evaluate them. Suppose there are 20 matrices. How many ways are there to multiply? Well, the number of ways in which you can multiply is exponentially large. It is called Catalan numbers. It is a phenomenally large numbers. Number of ways in which you can parenthesize the sequence so that associativity law is applicable. Okay? You can apply the associative law and get the equivalent form. So the number of ways in which you can get it. Take for example 4. If you take A, B, C, D, this chain can be multiplied as first multiply A with B, then with C, then you can do with D. Or you can start with D and then with C and then with B and then with A. Or you can do the following, you can do first A with B, or you can do C with D, and then you can put these two together. Or you can do the following, you can do B with C, first you do multiply with D, with the result you can multiply A. Or B with C, you can multiply with A, and then you can multiply with D. Several ways of doing that is there. So like this, there are even for 4 matrices it is like this. So there is no point in listing out all the possible ways in which you can do, evaluate the labor component in each one of them and finding the minimum one. For 3 I can do like this because there are only 2 options. But for n, you have exponentially many ways of doing it that this exhaustive way of doing that doesn't work. Okay? In fact, it is of the order 4 power n. 4 power n by n power 3 by 2, but I am giving you a rough figure. It is terribly large number, unbelievably large exponential number. So the number of ways you cannot just go on exhaustively do it and then find the overall minimum. Okay? It is an optimization problem. I want to find an optimal way, but the total number of ways in an exhaustive way is exponential. So let me examine whether the principle of optimality holds good. If principle of optimality holds good, then I can now build optimal solution, from that a bigger optimal solution and so on, and I can keep doing that. Right? From the smaller instance, I can grow to the larger instance. Right? Fortunately, here the principle of optimality holds good. How do we see whether the principle of optimality holds good here? First, you see that in the chain A1 cross A2 cross AK cross AK plus 1 cross AN. Let us assume that this is the last multiplication that is done, and the last multiplication is going to be done between two different chains, because that is putting it together and getting the final answer. Okay. The final answer of the chain ultimately is going to be the product of two matrices. What do those two matrices represent? Those two matrices represent the cumulative product of one part of the chain and the rest of the chain. Finally, these two will be put together to get the product of the full chain. The last multiplication which you are doing between those two matrices cannot be one in the middle here and one over the edge there and stuffs like that. It got to be chain like this, because these two chains are put together and final chain product is evaluated. So there will be one matrix which stands for this chain, and there is another matrix that you would have obtained here, and these two you would put together to get the chain. For example, what did you do here? Here you have first found BC and then A and so on. So you are getting the result of ABC, and with that you are putting the result of D. So this is like X and this is Y. Okay. So finally they are merged to get it. And in this scheme of things, these are all done first. This is the last multiplication. So the last multiplication is seen when you remove all the innermost parentheses, right? So you remove this and you remove this, and BCD will be found out in some way. This will be Y and this will be X, and here this is X and this is Y and so on. So it is a chain. Now the point to be observed is X should have been evaluated optimally and Y should have been evaluated optimally in the optimal scheme. Why? If X is not evaluated optimally, forget Y. This part, I can do something and improve the way in which it is done and reduce the overall complexity, and that is a contradiction to the assumption that I started off with an optimal scheme. So had I started off with an optimal scheme, there is no way to reduce this component's cost or to reduce the component cost here. In other words, this is evaluated optimally and this is also evaluated optimally. In other words, the optimal solution is made up of the optimal subsolution. The argument which I have told you just now is called cut and paste argument. In other words, you take an independent part. If this is not evaluated optimally, I can replace that with a better solution independent of the other part. So I can cut and I can paste a different solution in this part, and that would reduce the overall cost, but that is a contradiction to the initial assumption that I have started off with an optimal solution. So if I have an optimal scheme, in that optimal scheme there is no way to reduce the cost of this and no way to reduce the cost of this, implying that each of them are optimally evaluated. Okay. So here I introduce just one more simple notation to describe the cost. Suppose the matrices have the dimension, okay, A1 cross A2 cross A3 cross AN, and this is of dimension D0 cross D1. In order that the matrix multiplication is meaningfully defined, this got to be D1 cross D2, this got to be D2 cross D3, and in general that is Dn minus 1 cross Dn. So these are the various dimensions of the matrix. So what will be the A1 cross A2 cross AK? This will be a matrix of dimension D0 cross DK matrix, because this will result in D0 cross D2, this will result in D0 cross D3 and so on. So the final product will be a matrix of dimension D0 cross DK. And what will be the dimension of AK plus 1 cross AN? This will be DK cross DN. So, what will be the cost of performing the last multiplication? In the last multiplication, this is a matrix X, this is a matrix Y, this is what you put together. This is a matrix of dimension D0 cross dk, this is a matrix of dimension dk cross dn. Therefore, cost of last multiplication is D0 into dk into dn. Assuming k is the point at which you have split for the last multiplication, the cost of last multiplication is given by the value d0 dk dn. Okay. Now, I can introduce the following. Define C1n is the optimal cost for evaluating the chain A1 cross AN. Then C1n equal to C1k plus Ck plus 1n plus d0 dk dn. So, this is the cost of arriving at x, this is the cost of arriving at y, and this is the cost of performing the last multiplication. Therefore, C1n equal to C1k plus Ck plus 1 plus d0 dk dn for some k which is in the for some k. What is the range of k? K could be 1 less than or equal to k less than or equal to n minus 1. For some value in the range 1 less than or equal to k less than or equal to n minus 1, this is true. But unfortunately, I do not know for which k this is true. Therefore, I compute for each k and take the overall minimum. After all, this is the minimum cost. Therefore, C1n is given by minimum over 1 less than or equal to k less than or equal to n minus 1 of C1k plus Ck plus 1n plus d0 dk dn. So, this completely defines the recurrence relation. What are all the values that you need? K is 1 to n minus 1. So, C11, C12, C13, everything is needed. Similarly, all these things are needed here. When you are defining a chain 1 onwards, right, you are going to require Cij for j greater than or equal to I, right, j, these are all the values that you. So, what are all the subproblem space? The subproblem space consists of Cij 1 less than or equal to I less than or equal to j less than or equal to n. And we also have the following. What is Cii? This is 0. Cii is only chain consisting of only one matrix, nothing to compute. What is Cii plus 1? Cii plus 1 is computing Ai with Ai plus 1. This is of dimension di minus 1 cross di. This is of dimension di cross di plus 1. Therefore, this is di minus 1. There is only one way to multiply two matrices. The cost is di minus 1 di plus 1. So, I have this initial value, I have this recurrence equation, and I have to compute this value. So, I have identified the subproblem space. But what about the dependency? How are the subproblems depending on each other? So, to see how they are depending on each other, let us take a simple numerical example to see what is needed for C17. What do you need for C17? For C17, put the values here. You need C11 and C27, and C12 and C37, C13, C47, C14, C57, C15 and C67, and C16, C77. All these things are needed. K equal to 1, n is 7. Therefore, K ranges from 1 to 6. When K ranges from 1 to 6, you get here, and this one K plus 1 n varies from 2 to 7. These are all the problems you need to attack or to compute C17. So you cannot compute C17 without computing, let us say, C47 or C14. That is putting the cart before the horse kind of a thing. I know that this requires all these values. So only after computing all these things I can think of computing this. But in order to compute C13, what are the things you need? So in general, if you look into the pattern, if you arrange them in the matrix C11, C12, C13, C14, C15, C16, C27, okay, this is C22, C23 and so on, C27, C37, C47, C57, C67, C77. These are all the elements in the column and these are all the elements in the row C17. So if you want any item, you need everything before and everything below. Okay? You need everything before and everything below. Only then you will be able to compute. Right? So what are all the values that you have to begin with? To begin with, you have the values. I will quickly complete it. You have the following values. You have C11, C22, C33, C44, C55, let us say, and then C12, C23, C34, C45 you have. These values you have. Now, for what values I have everything before and everything below? For C13, for example, I have everything before and everything below. So, I can go ahead now with the computation of C13. I can also go ahead with the computation of C24 because for this value everything before and everything below is available. Then I can go ahead with the computation of C35 because for this everything before and everything below is available. Once these are computed, okay, then I can now compute, I will distinguish it, C14. Why? For C14 everything below and everything before is available. Now C25 can also be computed because for C25 everything before and everything below is available. Now I am in a position to compute C15 because everything before and everything below is available. Therefore, what is the order of computation? The order of computation is compute all these values, and so on. In otherwise, you are going to compute build the table diagonal wise. How do you characterize the diagonal? The diagonal is given by the difference of the second and first coordinate. This is called the main diagonal and the difference is 0. This is called the sub-diagonal, the difference is 1. For all others, we will give the diagonal number by the difference. So 3 minus 1, 4 minus 2, 5 minus 3, this is diagonal 2, this is diagonal 3 and this is diagonal n minus 1. Okay? And the dependency pattern is given. Now we are ready to completely solve the problem. How are you going to solve the problem? Quickly, let me build the code stepwise refinement. For d equal to 2 to n, compute the values in diagonal D. Okay, what are all the values in the, refine this, what are all the values in the diagonal D? The diagonal D values will have from 1 to d plus 1. So you are going to compute for j equal to 1 to n minus d of C when j equal to no d first you are j goes from d to n, huh? No, how do I start with that? 1, so j goes from 1 to n minus d and j goes from 1 to n minus d, oops, oh, C, J, J plus D. All right. What are the items in the diagonal? J equal to 1, 2, 3. It goes 1 plus 2, 2 plus 4, 3 plus 2 plus 2, 3 plus 2. So J, J plus D. But what is the formula for computing J, J plus D? Here is the general formula. If you want to compute J to J plus D, for K equal to J to J plus D minus 1, because it goes from first index to last index minus 1, what you have to do is C J K plus C J K C K plus 1 K equal to J plus D C K plus 1 J plus D plus that factor which is multiplying D0 dk dn. So D0 no dj dk and d j plus d. What you are doing is, for each one you find the minimum. So you just compute each one of them and update the minimum. Initialize the minimum to be, let us say, infinity, and then when you find the first value, update, second value you update, and third value you keep updating it. So you just have to find minimum among these k values. So you are evaluating these k values and finding the minimum. Problem solved. That's it. Okay. The optimal scheme is the labor involved in the optimal scheme is found out. One line code embedded in 3 for loops is all that comes, but you can see it comes out of a deep struggle, understanding, analysis, application of the principles and paradigms. Okay. It is a one line code only, but the recursive formulation is based on principle of optimality. Dependency graph analysis tells you you have to go this way, and then stepwise refinement gives you this. What is the complexity of this method? Complexity of this method is obviously order n cube. So 4 power n to n cube, you know the kind of a dramatic reduction it can take place. You can take a chain of 20 matrices, 4 power 20 is a phenomenal number, whereas 20 cube is only 8000, and then it is very simple way to evaluate the chain. Okay. Even a sequence of 20 to 30 transformations can be handled in one shot if you do the pre-processing and get the job done once, and that can be done in 1 minute and then keep it aside. That's it. Okay. So you can see the power of ideas. If you do naively, it may take enormous amount of time. If you do a careful analysis, look into the properties of the problem, apply the right techniques, then you gain efficiency and your implementation becomes faster. And this is a professional style of being innovative, creative, and a program designer. Right. Coding comes in the end. However efficient coder you are, if you start with an inefficient solution, your knowledge in or competence in C or C++ is not going to save you, because basically you have to do that many operations, whether you write a C program or C++ or Java or any program, right. If you have a wonderful idea coupled with an excellent programming tools, techniques and other things, you can gain for the ultimate efficiency and so on. So all these things we learn from these series of talks. Okay. Now what I want to ask you is, I told you that it is the diagonal wise. Is this the only order in which we can evaluate? Think for a minute and tell me for what other order we can evaluate this matrix. This is now, the matrix is dynamic programming. You can see that when an input is given, the table is dynamically built. Okay. Is there any other order in which it can be done, for which everything before and everything below is available and I can build it up? Yes? No, there is no lower triangular here. Lower triangular part is all 0. We have to compute only for Cij for I less than or equal to j. All these entries are to be given. So assume that these two values are available. Okay, for which values? Can I start with C35? C35 has got everything before and below available. Then C24 has got everything before and below available. And once you have this, C25 got everything before and below is available. Once you have this, now you can see C3 has everything before and below available, C14 has everything before and below is available, and now this has everything before and below available. In other words, this is another order in which you can write the loop index and variable different, but then this is yet another order in which you can build the table. The dependency relation says everything before and below is available. That doesn't mean that only diagonal wise we have to go. Can you now tell me one more order in which you can go ahead and then build the table? Obviously the column analog of that, right? So how do you do the column analog? First you can compute this and then this and then this. So finally you will get the answer. Whatever way, that is the final answer you would get, but the point is you can see that there are several ways of doing it. Once the dependency relation is identified, the table can be built in variety of ways. You don't have to think that the only textbook way which is given is the best one. If numerical stability and then computation of the values and building up requires certain simpler other alternative routes you want to take, you are welcome to take, but analyze all these things carefully. Okay? Art is long and life is short. There are a lot more to learn and we have very little life left. Okay? So my purpose of this series of talks is the following. I went by the philosophy which I already expressed to some people. Give him a fish, it will feed him one day. Teach him to catch a fish, it will feed him every day. If I can give you problems and solutions and problems and solutions and so on, probably you will know only the solution. Applicability of this in several contexts, compare and contrast different problem solving methodologies with respect to a given problem, then you see that you build an ability in you and you can apply that in your professional practice. So this is a humble beginning for teaching you to catch the fish. All the best for you in your profession. Thank you. So, do you have any questions? I don't have a time for questions. Anyway, it is a very, very artificial last line I have given. So even you, if you have asked a question, I said, no, don't ask questions and so on. Okay. Anyway, feel free to write to me. You have your contacts and other people, Eugene, to coordinate. He's taking care of the interface between me and Infosys. Okay. So get it.